In this video, I will take you behind the scenes of how I filmed a documentary about a one-legged BMX rider in just one day. You'll see how I plan my shoots with an outline and schedule, what gear I use in different situations, and how I capture authentic, unscripted moments on camera. I'll also show you how I light and conduct interviews to get meaningful answers, set up POV shots with an action camera, and make every scene look more epic than it was in real life. What you're about to see is a full lesson from Story Hero Academy. If you want to learn how to create videos people actually care about and bring an idea to life from start to finish, then check out the first link in the description. Now let's dive in. Welcome to the second out of 3 behind the scenes lessons in which I take you with me in the field in order to show you how I capture the right shots and craft a compelling story. In this lesson, we're going to focus all on documentary shooting, which is the type of shooting you need if you want to create documentaries, documentary-style YouTube videos, or also behind-the-scenes videos. If you compare it to stage shooting, you don't try to direct an actor and just stage certain actions, but instead you just try to document an event or an action in the most authentic and real way possible. However, also in documentary videos, you sometimes have some stage shots or scenes if you want to intensify a certain section. So we might also capture a couple of stage shots in this lesson as well. When it comes to the video I'm going to capture in this lesson, I'm going to create a mini documentary about the one-legged BMX rider Julian Molina. He's from Colombia, he only has one leg, and he never limited himself because of his disability, but instead he just always pushed his boundaries in order to become one of the greatest BMX riders out there. I feel extremely privileged to be able to tell his amazing story, and I think that you guys are going to learn a lot when it comes to documentary shooting. Now I'm first going to show you all of the gear that I'm going to take with me on the shoot today. So first up, we have my handheld setup with the Sony a7S III and a cage, a top handle, and a monitor, the Ninja 5. Basically, it's just there to record my screen. And lastly, I also have a shotgun mic in order to record audio that is happening in the scene. Besides this handheld setup, I also have a gimbal setup with another Sony a7S III. Obviously, I have the privilege to have 2 cameras. Not everybody has that, but as I own 2 Sony a7S III, I might as well bring both of them with me, because in this way, I can quickly switch between shooting handheld and shooting stabilized on the gimbal. Especially for documentary shooting, it is really important that you are flexible and that you don't waste any unnecessary time on mounting or dismounting equipment. So for that reason, it is really beneficial to have 2 different setups and quickly switch. Then next up, I also bought myself a waterproof camera case for a mirrorless camera. I basically just bought this one for like 80 euros off Amazon, which is basically the cheapest option to shoot with a mirrorless camera like the Sony a7S III in the water. I'm going to use this because I'm going to capture some shots of Julian swimming in the ocean, so hopefully my Sony a7S III is going to survive the day. Lastly, I also have a couple of action cameras with me. I have 2 GoPros as well as one 360 camera. I basically just decided to bring them with me because I might mount them onto the bike of Julian in order to capture some different POV shots. And for that reason, I also just brought a couple of different accessories like a clamp, also this like bike handle mount and some other mounts. I'm mostly going to stick to my 2 main camera setups, but if there is time, I'm definitely going to mount some action cameras onto the bike in order to capture some POV shots. Besides that, I basically just have some basic gear. I have a couple of different lenses, macro lens, the 35 1.8 if it gets darker, as well as the 20mm 1.8. And yeah, that basically covers all of the gear that I'm going to take with me. So when it comes to the preparation of this shoot, I basically hopped on a call with Julian 1 week ago in order to do a pre-interview. So basically I just asked him a couple of different questions in order to figure out his story. And from there I created an outline of what the story could look like. Obviously, as it's a documentary, the story can always change a little bit, but already it's good to have a direction for the shoot. From that outline, I planned a film schedule that basically outlines all of the different things that I want to capture today at the different locations. And when it comes to most documentaries, you always have 2 different types of footage. You have the interview and documentary B-roll footage. The interview is basically the character in a fixed studio setup telling their story, and most of the time this also serves as the voiceover. And then the documentary B-roll footage are basically just shots of the character doing different activities at different locations. So today we're going to film Julian riding his BMX bike, we're going to film him swimming in the ocean, we're going to film some daily tasks that he can do in his hotel room. So I just want to capture a large variety of different shots that are going to help me visualize the story of the interview. To give you an overview of the day, we will first capture some documentary B-roll footage of Julian in various situations, then we will capture the interview in my apartment, and later in the afternoon we will capture some more documentary B-roll footage of Julian riding his BMX bike and doing different tricks. I decided against creating a shot list to keep the shoot flexible, but I still wrote down some of the most important actions I wanted to capture at each location, as well as the questions I wanted to ask during the interview. This made sure I wouldn't forget any crucial shots or statements that were needed to tell Julian's story. Similar to the last lesson, you can also access all pre-production materials of the documentary in the example section of the Notion workspace templates. With that being said, I made my way to Julian's hotel, where I wanted to capture some everyday scenes of his daily life. When we arrived at the hotel, I quickly set up some pocket lights to create additional depth in the room. I also adjusted my white balance to be colder in order to create a darker mood in my shots, and after that we started to capture different shots of Julian getting ready for the day. I already captured some nice shots of Julian just getting ready and already kind of like leaving with the crutch. So we already have a connection to the next location, which is going to be in the bathroom. However, now I also want to capture some shots of only the leg by itself, because I think it's just an extremely strong visual to show while he's talking about the accident that he lost his leg. Basically, I will again take him and the crutch into the foreground, so it's kind of like the same scene, but I will also have the leg in the background. So I might even do kind of like a small focus shift from the foreground to the background to reveal it. I would say that you can again just kind of like go for the stretching again. Okay, so definitely got a nice shot of the whole leg. I'm now also going to take just like a tilt with like a higher focal length. Nice. Okay, cool. Now we're going to check out the bathroom. We just have this one light. We might actually use it, but it's just super hard to get a lot of depth in here because I only want Julian to kind of like prepare in front of the mirror. I think I can only shoot towards this direction. So I think I'm only going to go for more like a over-the-shoulder shot. Kind of just show him looking into the mirror, getting ready. Honestly, I think I'm going to keep this one very natural when it comes to the lights we have right now. I'm just going to remove all of the red chairs and the trash bin. I'm even wondering if we want to have a lot of light in this room or if we just want to have him kind of like isolated. Turn off this one to see what that looks like. So we have like less yellowish light on the walls. I think that's already better. How close can you stand in front of it? Can you go a bit closer? Yeah. Yeah. Better. Yeah, that's cool. So I positioned one small pocket light here. I'm going to position one more down at the bottom to just get a little bit more fill onto Julian so that his front is not completely dark when I'm filming it. Alrighty, then let's check it out. Yeah, that's a lot better. Okay, cool. I will basically just start with this shot by focusing on his legs and then going up to his face, because I know that for the next shot I definitely want to cut to a shot looking into the mirror. And you can go. So now I'm actually going to also capture some shots of his leg as well here. So as you see, when I'm shooting documentary scenes, then most of the time I just try to tell the character in action and then I just try to freestyle, because I want to get the most authentic shots possible and I just have to adjust to the action instead of the other way around. Mm-hmm.
Once that's through, I hit that, bro. That's really it.
I would like to also get a couple of quick macro shots. It's always nice to have like a variety of shot sizes to play around with, and I just want to get a couple of shots of his eyes. So let's quickly switch to the macro lens. Okay, can we just do like one shot where you're basically just looking towards the mirror without moving? Can you turn in a little bit towards me? Not too much, like this. Just look at the wall for a little bit. I just capture some shots of your eyes, okay? Honestly, that's kind of all I need when it comes to here. I'm going to quickly switch back to the 24-70 because I want to capture a couple more details of that lag to just have some extra footage, then we go outside. As you can see, we have all of these stickers on the prosthetic leg. All of these small details tell you a lot about the person, and I just want to get as much personality and emotions as possible out of all of the objects that are with Julian. Obviously, we're shooting here in a hotel room, so we don't really have that personal character of his home. However, with objects like this, you can really give people a good insight into what a person is like. One sticker I saw in particular right now is the one with Para BMX. And that's definitely something I want to talk about in my story towards the end about the Para BMX movement that Julian is creating right now. So that's a great visual to have, and I'm just going to capture another close-up shot of this one. Let's get a little bit more light on there. Okay, cool. Alrighty, let's wrap it up. You get ready and we go outside.
For the next scene, I wanted to capture shots of Julian walking with his crutch through the dark alleyways, as this would allow me to transport the depressive emotions after his accident.
So Andres, who is also with us on this shoot, he's already waiting with the car, ready to go. So we're just heading towards the car, and I'm just going to try to capture as many shots as possible. You just go as you would, and if I need something, I will tell you.
Okay.
Go a little bit slower. Okay, wait a second. Can you go again a few steps back? Okay, and go.
As this part of the location created the exact mood I was after, I asked Julian to pass it a few times so that I could capture his action from multiple angles.
Let's do that one more time, because this location is really cool. Looks kind of like Colombia. I'll just position myself here and do like a pan. And let's go. Okay, right now I'm actually going to go a little bit further to the front to just already position myself and get like more of a high focal length shot.
As you see, running to different spots is quite common when shooting for a documentary, as you want to cover multiple angles without interrupting the action. While in this case I could have also asked Julian to wait, being quick on your feet is especially important if the action cannot be repeated.
I'm struggling a little bit even on the second native ISO. With the 24-70, I have to boost it even higher to get the exposure right, so I'm just quickly going to put on a low light lens. So now I can go again back to 12,800, open up the aperture, and in this way I can properly expose. So obviously with these alleyways we have like the most depth here, and I think it's super nice to have this kind of like side tracking shot of Julian just walking. So I'm basically just going to set a manual focus and just follow him while he's walking here. And let's go. Yep, so what I'm trying to do right now is to really just shoot handheld all the time in order to kind of create a contrast to all of the shots that we're going to capture at the next location where we're going to film with the gimbal. Because when it comes to the emotions I want to spark in the viewer, I really want to show the difference of what it's like for Julian to walk versus riding on his bike. I want to show people that riding on the bike is basically just freedom, and he just has a complete flow where he can let go of everything. And that's why I want to keep all of these shots more handheld, and then later I'm going to film a lot with the gimbal.
Once we made it out of the tight alleyways, I captured a static wide shot that would allow me to either enter or exit the scene. Furthermore, I asked Julian to go onto the other side of the street so I could capture some tracking shots from the side. I purposely tried to include foreground elements or passing vehicles to make those shots appear more dynamic. As we got closer to our car, I captured some more medium shots from angles I hadn't yet captured before to create even more variety in my coverage. After meeting my assistant Andres, we packed the equipment into the car and made our way to the next location. While driving, I pointed my camera outside the window and captured insert shots of passing buildings, trees, and lanterns. These shots can sometimes come in handy during the edit, as they allow you to create a natural connection between two scenes. After a 20-minute drive, we arrived at the harbor, where I wanted to capture both stationary and tracking shots. For your understanding, stationary shots are captured at a fixed spot where you move around by foot, and tracking shots are captured from a moving vehicle, which allows you to cover various parts of a location. Based on my outline, I knew that I needed shots to visualize two different periods of Julian's life. In the first period, I wanted to transport the viewer into the moment when Julian first stepped onto a bike and felt a sense of freedom. And in the second period, I wanted to showcase Julian's determination to execute difficult tricks and become a BMX pro. Therefore, I knew that I needed to capture shots of Julian looking like a beginner as well as an expert.
Okay, so as we're a little bit early on time and we still have a little bit until the sun comes up, we're actually going to capture a couple of tracking shots of Julian riding on the bike. So I'm just going to take my gimbal camera, mount the 2470 on it, then I'm going to go into the car. Julian is going to be on the side, and I just capture some nice tracking shots on different focal lengths. Okay, so I'm actually going to go into the trunk here so that I can film in kind of like all the different directions, and we're also just going to ride very slowly, so I think it's pretty safe. Still, in general, I always recommend you to just wear the necessary belts. If you don't have any belts, then usually you could also film out of the side of the window, which we might do later on. Actually going to turn my gimbal around so I have it upside down, and I also put it on a very slow speed so that I have some smooth movements. All right, then let's do it.
When capturing tracking shots, it's important to align the speed between the car and the subject.
A little bit slower. Can you come a little bit, that you stay kind of like a bit closer to me?
Right here.
Yeah, and you just keep it the same speed, Andres. Yeah, like that. Perfect.
Besides wide shots with the whole subject visible, I also tried to capture shots on higher focal lengths while shifting the point of interest.
Let's do one more turn. So we turn around and go back. Yeah, like that. Oof.
As you see, this direction looked much more aesthetic, as the glow on the horizon together with the clouds created additional color contrasts. So in order to have the option to cut to a medium shot from this direction, I repeated the same shot as before on a higher focal length.
Andres, you keep the same speed. Julian, you're a bit closer back here. Okay, we'll do some wider shots where we're coming from the bottom. I'm actually going to turn the gimbal around now.
On our third and last stretch, we had to pause halfway through as we got stopped by a security guard.
Hola.
The security guard told us that we needed a permit in order to film in this part of the harbor. This is something that can often happen when shooting with a crew or larger cameras, and in general you should always give in because there is no use in starting a discussion. As the sun was coming up anyways, we walked to the second location at the harbor to capture some stationary shots.
Alright, so we arrived at the sunrise location. For this location I basically picked this staircase to just give Julian a little bit of room to do some different tricks, but also I just think it looks very cinematic here because we have the harbor with all of the different boats, and the sun is actually going to rise back here. So we're going to have really nice golden hour. So again, I just have my overview of the actions I want to film here. So I want to capture some shots of him walking with his crutch and the bike on the side, and then he's basically just putting the crutch aside and just getting onto his bike, and that's kind of like the moment where we transition from all of the walking shots to all of the riding shots. And that's where I also switch from the handheld setup to the gimbal setup in order to capture some shots of him riding around here and also doing some different tricks. Besides that, I also want to showcase his technique on how to pedal with only one foot. I think that's really interesting, so I want to also keep that in mind. And at the end, I also would like to capture a couple of like reflective shots of him just like sitting on the staircase with the bike, so that we also have some shots where he's not riding, but just kind of like reflecting on life. And those shots could be useful also for the beginning part of the video where it's about the accident. Julian, can you just quickly go here just for me to see what it looks like? Honestly, I think that this shot looks super nice, and then we also have a little bit of variety to the other shots we're going to capture afterwards. So I would actually capture the scene where he's arriving and putting down his crutch right here, and then once the sun is up, we're going to capture all of the riding shots. So you just arrive here, put the crutch here, then you just put the helmet on, you get onto the bike and you just start riding.
Okay.
And we might have to do it like 1 or 2 times.
Okay.
I think that this is like a pivotal moment of him just like getting onto the bike for the first time when he's talking about his past. So I will shoot those ones in 50 FPS to just have a little bit of wiggle room in the editing. Okay, you ready?
Yep.
And let's go.
Obviously the scene was a bit more staged, but I knew that I needed those shots in order to connect the past of Julian's accident with the present moment of him being a BMX rider. Whenever I felt like I had captured a good shot, I changed my focal length, angle and movement, as this makes it easier to connect the different shots in the editing. As I didn't expect Julian to do a trick, my camera movement was a bit shaky, so I knew that I needed to nail that part in the next take.
Nice. He's so fucking good at riding bikes. That's crazy. Okay, let's do it one more time. It was super sick. Really, really cool. We now have perfect timing. Sun is coming up right here in the back. So we get a nice flare in, but we still have all of this blue mood in the back here with the water. I think it's perfect.
I asked Julian to execute the whole action again, so I could capture shots from additional angles and create more options for the edits. Also, I now paid extra attention to the end parts where Julian does the trick and rides into the distance.
Nice, okay. I'm just going to capture it one more time, like from the front, and then we get started with the tricks.
In this third take, I tried to capture Julian from the front while including the palm trees into the background.
It's okay, it's okay. I think that part was already good. We just keep going from here.
When Julian put on his helmet, I tried to capture a closer shot of his face to highlight his expressive emotions. This turned out to be a crucial shot in the final video.
Yeah, then let's get started with the tricks while we have the nice light. So I'm going to switch to the gimbal setup. I'm actually going to go upside down for most of these shots because I want to get all of the depth when I'm just like filming from a lower height. So yeah, let's actually get started with the first shots here. I would again just take that moment when you kind of like start riding, and I will just follow you, again do the 360 and then hop onto the bank. But the bank is going to be the more important part.
Okay.
So I actually put the manual focus to the bank right now so that I can completely focus on the movement. I'm going to put that to pan follow. Nice. Honestly, I would say you just freestyle and I'm just going to try to move around you.
Okay, we can do something like this, for example.
Yeah, that's super sick. So as I had like a weird flare in my shots, I actually took the diffusion filter off and I'm only going to shoot with the variable ND filter because it's just going to give me some nicer sun flares. Alrighty, that's such a like highlight trick that I'm going to film it in slow motion. So I'm just going to switch to 100 FPS, adjust the exposure. Sick.
Yo.
Oof. Fuck. Yo, that's a sick one. Nice. Let's go. Then let's go for the next one. Let's do something at the staircases. And I'm actually now going to switch back to 25 FPS. I want to get a little bit of speed into the editing right now. So obviously for highlight tricks like right now, it's super nice to have that slow motion. But in general, I want to also build up speed in the editing. So don't shoot everything in slow motion, but also work with different frame rates. So what are you thinking about?
Here to there.
Okay.
Or landing like this.
Okay. You just go for it. Oof. Okay, let's do it one more time. So obviously I also always need to adjust to the speed of Julian doing the tricks. So sometimes I need him to do it once, twice, 3 times. Yeah, I'm going to do even more movement. I'm going to move towards him and actually turn while he's doing the trick. Okay. Okay. So definitely trying to go very close to objects, moving towards him, oof, to just get a lot of speed into that and really have some high intensity shots. So now I'm actually also just going to record a little bit the in-between moments while he's like preparing for the tricks and stuff like that. So it's not just going to be a trick compilation at the end, but I also want to have some variety of shots when it comes to him just riding on the bike, looking at the new trick that he's going to do. So I'm just going to capture some more moments as well and keep the camera rolling.
Do the music of the sunshine, bro. Sunshine! Okay, let's do this. Boom.
Julian tried to execute a specific trick, but he really seemed to struggle with it. However, as you know, good stories also always include the conflict a character experiences, so I made sure to film all of his attempts and capture the in-between moments, which clearly showed his determination.
So a shot like that, for example, is really cool. Him just like preparing the spot, looking and actually seeing in his eyes that he's kind of like struggling and just pushing himself to do the trick. I think that like these moments in between are also super important to capture. I think we can switch it up with another trick that maybe has like a bit more motion, that it's not that much static at one point.
You can go to the second stair and jump it over.
As most of the tricks only lasted for a few seconds, we often had to do multiple attempts until I nailed the camera movement.
Okay, you're like way too high for me, okay? So I'll actually zoom out a bit more and just keep the frame a bit wider. I can still always crop in a little bit in the editing, but I just really want to make sure that I get him perfectly in the frame when he actually nails the tricks. Yep, that was a perfect one. Okay, for this one, I'm going to run very quickly to follow with him and track him. Nice. We got a lot of really cool tricks, definitely have some variety on this spot. So I'm going to go into the handheld setup with the 70mm lens, and I'm just going to capture some shots of him like preparing for all of the tricks, getting into his mind and just like really trying to focus. Because I also just want to show the emotions and not only what's happening on the surface. Honestly, give it a try with that one that was kind of hard. So just try that one first and then we go to the next trick.
Okay.
At this point, I didn't interfere with what Julian was doing at all, but I simply tried to document how he got into his zone and prepared for the tricks. This type of shooting can be a bit more challenging as you have to quickly adjust to what the character is doing, but you also get the most authentic actions and emotions. Furthermore, I was able to capture multiple shots of Julian failing at his attempts, which was important for the part of the story where he is just getting started with BMX and nobody believes in his dream.
I think we got some really nice tricks, and I also think we got some good emotions of him just like trying hard to focus on the trick. I would like to now also just capture like more like reflective shots. I think it was really cool when you earlier just like put the bike on the ground and you're just chilling there. Let's do it here, and I can use this as a foreground and the stairs in the background. Yeah, let's do it here. So I'm going to film those shots in 50 FPS because again, that's kind of like for a little bit slower sequence where he's talking about what's going on in his head. So I think for these ones, it's nice to have them in a higher frame rate.
As you see, I usually try to add some subtle handheld movements as they make the shot appear more natural. Also, I always cover different shot sizes so I can choose the right one for the according moment of my story. After capturing a good amount of stationary shots, we switched back to tracking shots from the car.
So right now just balancing the camera with the 24-70mm on the gimbal because we're going to do another round of tracking shots. We're going to drive with the car this way and then we're just going to film some shots of Julian because then we're going to get this nice backlight that you can see back here. So I think those shots should also turn out really cool. So this time I'm actually going to film out of the window to get a little bit more onto the side of Julian. And now Julian is also going to do a couple of different tricks while riding, maybe some wheelies, maybe 180 or something like that. So these shots are also more for that kind of like sequence where everything is a little bit more intense and he's just like starting to ride with the bike. Ready?
Yeah. Let's do this, bro.
I'm actually going to switch to FPV mode so that I can always counter the horizon because sometimes it just tilts. Okay. Yes, a little bit faster, Andres. Okay, you can go.
Here you can again see that I first focus on a specific shot size, and once I'm happy with the movement and composition, I change the focal length to capture a different shot size.
Yeah, like that. So these are the type of shots that I want to show when he talks in his interview about riding a bike for the first time, because I really think that it just shows that feeling of freedom that it probably gives for him. I'm super happy with the shot so far. Maybe move a bit into the side or the middle of the road. Yeah, like that. Okay.
Again, we capture tracking shots in both directions to create more diversity in the setting of my footage.
That was a nice one. Nice. Yeah, we got some really nice light there as well. And all of the green patches look really cool. Honestly, I'm going to shoot a little bit in 100 FPS because we have really nice real-time shots. Nice. Andres, can you do one more turn here? So right now I'm just filming his shadow. Super nice, simplistic shot.
With the backlight of the sun and the lush trees, these slow motion shots perfectly visualize the sense of freedom I wanted to transport. So after only 10 minutes of driving back and forth, we had already collected enough footage to cover this part of the story.
Those shots were fucking sick, man.
Nice.
It was really, really cool. Nice.
Like it.
Let's go.
Oh yeah.
For the next slot in the film schedule, we made our way to the beach in order to capture shots of Julian's other hobbies besides BMX. When moving to new locations, I often like to capture transitory shots such as the character walking to a different spot or interacting with their surroundings. This creates more diversity in the setting and actions of my shots, which allows me to further shape the story within the edits. My main intention for the beach scenes was to highlight Julian's hobbies outside of BMX, which include swimming and making jewelry. However, in the editing, I realized that these side topics only distracted from the main goal of becoming a professional BMX rider, which is why I didn't include any of those shots in the final video. For the swimming footage, I put my camera into the underwater housing and joined Julian in the ocean. Unfortunately, the sunlight was often blocked by the clouds, and even when it peeked through, the muddy water didn't allow me to capture the shots I envisioned. Furthermore, I'm not really experienced in shooting underwater, which is why I decided to cut it short and film more coverage of Julian making his jewelry. Similar to earlier, I mostly stuck to static shots without a lot of movement to make the footage appear more authentic, and I covered a variety of shot sizes to provide myself with more freedom in the editing. Once I felt like I had enough B-roll of Julian's hobbies, we headed to my apartment in order to capture the interview.
Alright, so we're now in the upper bedroom of my apartment, which I usually use as my studio where I capture all of my scripted lessons. However, today I'm going to use it as the location for my interview setup. As you can see, I already have tons of different lights and tripods in the background, and now I just need to put everything together to make this look visually appealing. So first up, I'm just going to tape that curtain closer to the wall so there's no light entering here. Just gonna use some duct tape. Now that everything is a bit more dark, let's start with the key light. I'm actually just going to position a chair where Julian is going to sit. I think that he's going to sit somewhere here so that we can actually cover all of these light switches with Julian himself, and we just have like the clean wall. Next up, I'm going to position the rim light. Obviously, rim light is kind of on the opposite side of the key light, so I'm just going to place it back here. Okay, now I'm just going to use some pocket lights to illuminate the background and bring out some more texture in that wall. It's actually set to blue right now. We're going to see if we use the normal colors I use in my lessons or if I'm going to switch it up. Then I'm going to take also this one just to place the other light on, get it to the right angle. Yeah, just like that. So we have the background light, key light, rim light. We have to see if we actually need a fill light, or maybe I'm actually going to let a bit more light enter here, which is going to serve as the fill light. But yeah, that already covers the lighting. Now I'm going to set up both of the camera angles. On the main camera, I want to have the 35mm f1.8 to have more subject separation. And on my second camera, I'm probably going to use the 2470 at 70mm focal length in order to get the second angle from the side, which is kind of like a close-up of Julian's face. So I'm just gonna switch those two lenses, and then we can mount both cameras onto the tripods. Our white balance currently is definitely too warm, so we're just going to change that down to something like probably 4000 Kelvin. Let's give that a try. I still want to have a more intense effect of this lamp, so I'll see I can boost the intensity, maybe bring it even closer to the back here. This light setup already looks decent. Now I just need a person to actually fine-tune it. However, I'm still going to place the audio in the setup as well. And then we're just going to get Julian in order to sit in and tweak everything to be perfect. We can also let it run into the second camera. Doesn't really matter because we're going to sync it up in the end. Then we're going to mount the microphone. We can take the pop filter off. We don't really need it. We adjust a little bit so that the angle is kind of like 45 degrees. I actually looked up some photos of Julian on the web, and I saw this photo of him where he's just like sitting on his bike. So I was thinking, why not just take Julian's BMX bike and position it here, and then he can just sit on there and we just do the interview in this way.
Once Julian was in position, I could further fine-tune the different aspects of the interview setup. First, I adjusted the microphone to not be visible in the frame. Next up, I adjusted the composition of both camera angles to include the right parts while giving Julian enough leading room in front of his face. And then lastly, I made some small tweaks to the different lamps in order to balance the brightness between the subject and background to each other. For interviews like this, high-quality audio is essential since it will be used as the voiceover for the entire documentary. Therefore, I highly recommend you to wear headphones and do a proper sound check by letting your character say a few words. While doing this, also have a look at the audio meter and make sure it doesn't clip when the subject talks at a higher volume. And with that, I was ready to start with the interview.
When it comes to the interview, it is actually one of the most important parts of the whole documentary because this is where your character actually tells their story. We already captured a lot of documentary B-roll of Julian doing tricks, and maybe we also got some emotional shots where we see that they're maybe struggling or focusing, but without any good voiceovers and good answers from your character, all of these visuals are not going to have any emotions in them. That's why the main intention of your interview is to really ask the questions and have a conversation to let your character be vulnerable and share all of the emotions that people can't see in all of the visuals you captured. Now, I want to give you some different tips when it comes to interviewing, and there are basically three different categories. One is before the whole shoot, one is before the actual interview, and one is during the interview. So before the whole shoot, I recommend you to do a pre-interview by just hopping on a call with your character and basically just asking them some of the questions that you have in order to figure out what their story is actually about. From that point, you can create kind of like an outline of how you imagine the story to be. And with that, you can just go into the interview, and that basically means that you have a direction and you're trying to guide the character to the right answers to craft a story that you have in your head. Obviously, you don't have to 100% stick to your own imagination because most likely their story is a little bit different. So let them tell their story, but still try to have a direction so that you can ask the right questions and lead the conversation. Then once you're on the shoot and everything is set up for the interview, there are also a few tips that are going to make your subject feel more comfortable and open up more emotions in the conversation. So one thing you can definitely do is to ask everyone who doesn't need to be there to leave the room. So if you have a larger production team and there are tons of people, ask everybody who doesn't need to be there to just leave, because that is going to take a lot of pressure off the character and they're just going to be able to be more vulnerable and emotional. Next up, some people struggle to be intimate if they're being filmed by cameras because they think that the whole world is just watching. So once they come in, just tell them that they don't need to worry about the cameras. This is a normal conversation between you and I, and that is also just going to alleviate a lot of pressure and they're going to be more authentic and open when it comes to the conversation. Then another really important tip before the interview is that you tell your character that your own voice as the interviewer is not going to be audible in the actual video. It's really important for them to understand that, because It is not going to be a completely normal conversation. Sometimes you will just be nodding your head and you're not going to say all the time, yeah, okay, keep going, because then you don't have any usable voiceovers for the interview. So for that reason, tell them that your voice is not going to be audible, and tell them to always repeat the question when answering it. So for example, if I just ask the subject, what is your name? Instead of just saying Julian Molina without any context, they should say, my name is Julian Molina. So they always just kind of like repeat the question in order to give the viewer context of what they're talking about. And the last tip before the interview, which is not mandatory, is to also do a short meditation together with your character. That also helps some people to just get out of their head and to just be present with you. And that is also just going to improve the answers that you get. Now, once you made your character feel comfortable and you actually start with the interview, there are also a couple of tricks that you should follow during the interview. The first one is you have to listen to the subject. Second, you have to think about your next question. And third, you have to be fully present. Especially the first one and the third one, which are listening and being present, are extremely important because the character actually needs to get the feeling that you care about what they're talking about. If you're constantly just looking on your iPad and just looking for the next question, then they're not going to be able to open up and give you very authentic answers.
When I get my first bike, yeah, I was 13. I was so exciting for go to the mechanic guy, and oh, it's ready. I mean, what? Oh, how are you gonna ride with one leg? Yeah, like this. Boom, boom. Are you crazy? Yeah. And I take my first bike, and I don't care for the balance. I don't care for the, and all that stuff. I just ride. Looks like the bike looks like my other leg.
Love that one, man. Yeah, it was really cool. It was well described. Furthermore, for a lot of people, they actually warm up throughout the interview and they get more just open and emotional towards the end. For this reason, it can also make sense to ask a couple of warm-up questions that are not as important. And once you feel like the character is already a little bit more comfortable, you can jump also more into the emotional questions. Let's start with like a very general question. Like, what are the main activities that just bring you like the most joy in life?
I think what I very enjoying is go climbing, go swim, spend time with my dog.
And lastly, if you feel like an answer wasn't good, then don't try to just tell them, okay, can you just say that again? But instead, just tell them, okay, completely wipe your mind, forget everything you just said, and let's do it again. Because once you actually have just kind of like different points that you want to check off in your head while you're talking, it's going to be extremely difficult. First of all, to just like remember all of those points, and second, to actually make it sound authentic. Let's do it one more time, just like wipe everything that you just said. Don't try to like think about all the points. Just try to get a clean mind and just try it one more time. Briefly tell me the story of like how did you lose your leg?
After 1.5 hours, I had gathered all necessary interview statements and I was confident that I could make the story work in the edits. Next up, the crew and I headed to the first skate park where I wanted to focus on showcasing the BMX community by filming shots of Julian interacting with other riders.
I actually got the location from a friend of Julian who like knows all the places here, but yeah, unfortunately, there are not really that many other people riding BMX, so we're just going to stick to capturing a lot of different tricks. However, we now made an effort to get some people to the last location where we're going to be afterwards, which is also a skate park. So we're going to see because it's a bit outside the city, but for now, let's just focus on capturing some nice tricks. Then you can just go and do your thing, and then I'm just gonna let you know.
Again, I didn't provide Julian with any direction as I wanted him to let his personality speak through his own actions. As his body was stiff from the interview, he started to warm himself up by doing different stretches and exercises. As I hadn't yet captured shots of Julian warming himself up, this was the perfect opportunity to do so.
Okay, I actually like these kind of like observer shots, just staying here behind some objects and just filming him, but just like panning around. That's also a different style to all of the shots we captured earlier in the morning, so I'm just going to see what I can get like this. I actually really like those shots because it gives such a nice flow if you're just like following his motion. So I feel like these shots do like a really good job of transporting the flow of the bike. Do you think you can do a tail whip with any of those?
Maybe here.
Yeah?
Yeah.
At one point, Julian attempted the same trick over and over again as it was a lot more difficult. As I knew that he would only nail the trick once, I repeated the same dynamic movement whenever he approached the ramp. On top of that, I again focused on the in-between moments where Julian's determination was clearly visible. And then once he nailed the trick, I came up to him in order to capture his reaction.
That's it. Not very clean, but that works.
How about the one in the back with the curve?
In the curve? Oh yeah, not too.
Let's do this one. I'm going to come your way and you come in my way. All right, so as you see, obviously for like tricks, you always have to stage it a little bit. I have to know what he's going to do so that I actually know how to move my camera. So right now he's just doing this rail and I'm going to move towards him.
For the next 30 minutes, I followed Julian as he performed a variety of tricks, ensuring I captured a broad range of footage. Before each trick, we briefly discussed what he was about to do, so I could adjust my camera movement and frame rate accordingly. Depending on the action, I often switched between 25 and 100 FPS to create even more variety in my footage. At one point, Julian approached another skateboarder to help him film a trick. This was a perfect opportunity to showcase the sense of community I wanted to highlight. In spontaneous moments like this, you have to react very quickly in order to capture the most authentic moments from different angles. So I positioned myself at the right spots and filmed the interaction as it naturally unfolded. To emphasize their emotions, I recorded everything in 100 FPS, which definitely turned out to be the right decision.
Okay, so I think we got some really nice shots of Julian jamming with the other guy. However, now I also want to get some POV shots to get even more variety in all of the tricks we capture. So I'm just going to mount some GoPros onto Julian's bike and we're going to figure out what tricks he can do and which ones look good with the GoPros. I have one clamp that we can maybe mount onto one of these like rails next to the bike. I also got an actual like bike handle mount, so that one might be even more stable because I think that this one might get loose if there's like a lot of shock on it, then it just might fall down. For this reason, I think I'm just going to work with this one for now and we're just going to mount it on the bike and give it a try. I'm just going to double check the settings right now. So I'm definitely going to shoot with a fixed shutter speed of 1/50 because I want to have that natural motion blur, because you won't really be able to match like super cinematic shots that you capture with your normal camera with an action camera if the shutter speed is just like super high, because everything is just going to look very, very sharp. So definitely want to use the right shutter speed, and I'm just going to mount an ND filter on here so that I can actually keep that shutter speed.
Furthermore, I also set the GoPro to hyper view and a 16:9 aspect ratio, as these settings would allow me to capture the widest angle possible.
Where do you think it makes sense to mount it? Like, I think that it could look really cool to have it close to the tire. Like with this, you can't grind, right?
Yeah, I grind that side.
Okay,
About that.
so then let's do the other side. Really tighten it up, because especially if there's a lot of shakes, then it needs to be bulletproof. I think I'm just going to remove the middle element. The fewer elements you have, the more stable it's going to be. So I'm just going to take this one out. Yep, that works. Then just like go for one ride where you do like a couple of different tricks.
Yep.
From here on, I could simply lean back and watch Julian capture the footage.
Let's go. Nice.
We quickly reviewed the GoPro footage to ensure that the settings looked good, and we were both happy with the results. Therefore, we decided to mount the GoPro on the other side of the bike and capture other tricks that looked particularly good from that angle. As Julian wrote, I already brainstormed different positions and mounting options to maximize the coverage from unique perspectives. Also, I occasionally picked up my main camera to capture some high focal length shots, but I always made sure to keep a distance so I wouldn't be visible in the action camera footage. Ultimately, we captured shots from the different sides of both wheels, a few from the handlebar facing Julian, and some POV shots by using a chest mount. This variety of angles provided me with a lot of freedom in the edit, and it allowed me to truly immerse the viewer in the action.
Boom.
Awesome. Okay, got some nice shots. We're now going to go to the last location, which is like a bowl where we can do like a lot bigger jumps. So I'm excited for that one. Let's go.
The goal for the second skate park was to capture some truly dynamic shots of more advanced tricks. During the location scouting, I assessed a large variety of skate parks via Google Maps, but this one seemed like the best fit as it looked visually appealing and the sun was supposed to set at the perfect angle.
Okay, so we're now here at the last location, which is kind of like a bowl skate park. So I hope that we can do some very like high jumps, which are probably going to look the most epic of all of the jumps today. And actually one fan of Julian just showed up because Julian posted a story on his Instagram channel. So I'm actually just going to start by capturing a couple of shots of both of them.
Since the previous skate park wasn't very crowded, this was a good opportunity to capture more footage showcasing Julian's influence on other people in the BMX community.
You're riding BMX yourself?
Yeah.
Yeah?
But my bike's broken and I skipped last camp.
Shit. Okay. So this is something you should always think about when you arrive at a location. Always look for the spot where your gear is not going to be visible and just make that spot your base, because it is an absolute pain in the ass to always just take your backpack and just move it all the time because it's visible in the shots. Okay, so the gimbal is stabilized and my plan here is to first just capture all of the big tricks on this camera, on the 16mm lens, to just have a very wide field of view and to actually move around in the bowl. And once I covered all of the main tricks, Julian might also get a little bit more exhausted, and then I might switch maybe to the handheld setup and do some like high focal length tracking shots. And then probably towards the end, I'm also going to again just mount the GoPros onto his bike to get some POV shots. And then depending on how the light situation is going to change, I might just go back to the main camera again, because we actually have, I think, a potential for the sky to really be colorful. Let's cross the fingers and let's try this. Okay, so I think for this scenario, I'm actually going to change the follow speed to either be medium or fast, because I definitely need to adjust quickly when Julian is just moving and going different directions. What I will really try to focus on is still to just always extend the rotation that I'm doing. So when I'm just following, I definitely want to keep a similar motion instead of always just like switching it up all the time. So I will just try to get into a good flow with the camera as well to kind of match the flow of Julian. So it's actually super hard to match his motions exactly. For this reason, I actually just try to look at him and just predict where he's going to go and just try to point my camera in the right direction, because it's kind of impossible to just track it by looking on the screen. I'm gonna go for an even faster follow speed so that it adjusts more quickly when I pan up.
With the faster follow speed, it was a lot easier to match Julian's flow, and as you can see, these back and forth movements created a very dynamic look.
Okay, it's getting a lot better now. When you kind of like have the motion, then you can also just look on the screen and it works out. I think I have a really cool shot of him going in real time like this, and at the end he was doing the exit with a 360 here. So I just want to connect to the other shot, and for that reason I'm now actually switching to 100 FPS. Now just going to capture that exit part of him doing the 360, and hopefully I can connect it well in the editing for those two shots to go together. Okay. Yeah, I think that was already pretty good. All right.
When Julian took off his shirt and his tattoos were visible, he looked much more rebellious than before. I knew that I needed to capture this visual transformation of the character, as these shots would allow me to communicate a pivotal change within the story. While shooting, I constantly considered how I could connect new shots to the previous ones. In the case of this shot, the height and position of Julian was hard to predict, which is why I repeated the same camera movement in the hopes that one composition looked good. To be sure, I still checked the playback on the screen of my camera. As my goal wasn't only to capture a cinematic montage of tricks, I knew that I had to capture more raw, authentic and emotional footage. Therefore, I asked Julian whether he could try one of his most difficult tricks, with the intention to document the process of him overcoming his own limitations.
The problem is my confidence out there. So because I have, after my injury in Morocco, like I don't want to be wrong.
Yeah, yeah. When you're filming with other athletes and you're documenting what they're doing, always just respect their own limits and boundaries and don't just like push it too far.
Still, both of us knew that we had to push it a little bit, so Julian figured out a trick that made him feel challenged without putting himself in danger.
Okay, so we now actually got some nice light coming in here, and we also have this like wall of clouds, so light conditions are perfect. He definitely kind of like tried a trick we actually talked about in our call. It's called Superman seat grab, where he basically goes off his bike and just holds it like that.
After some of the attempts, I moved closer towards Julian in order to capture his reaction and get a closer insight into his emotions.
Again, possible. I tell to myself, you do it. I mean,
Okay, so we got some really nice shots already of him just kind of like motivating himself. I feel like now he could actually do the trick, and I would like to have it in slow motion because we just have absolutely insane light. So I'm just going to switch to 100 FPS and we're going to see what happens this time.
This time I followed Julian to the back of the skate park to capture slow motion footage of how he processes the previous attempt and how he prepares himself for the next one. As you see, for documentary scenes that often only last for a few minutes, I frequently change my camera angles and settings to maximize my coverage. So even after only 3 attempts, I had already captured real-time footage, an emotional statement, and slow motion shots. As I waited for Julian to nail the trick, I kept filming in slow motion until this happened. I know it might seem a bit ignorant, but in moments of conflict I always try to stay focused and capture the essence of the character's emotions. As I knew that I would have to directly connect these shots in the editing, I made sure to frequently change my camera angle and focal length. As Julian stayed on the ground for a lot longer than I expected, I stopped filming to see if he's alright.
Are you okay, bro?
yeah, that's painful.
I continued filming, but as Julian really seemed to be in pain, I again wanted to clarify that he doesn't have to do it.
Bro, just for you again, like you don't have to push yourself if you don't want to do it, right?
Yeah, okay.
Like only if you want to.
Let me try a couple more.
Okay.
We'll see what happens.
What's going through your head right now?
You definitely is so close. It's just one move, one thing. Well, 3 moves, for be honest. Hard moves. Many things for think about it, but I just gonna think and do it. You know, send it. Boom, boom. All right.
Some really good stuff. I think it was nice to see that sort of like fight in his mind where he's kind of like debating whether or not he should do it, but you can really see kind of like the determination that he has. I'm really, really happy that we got those shots.
Eventually, on the next attempt, he finally managed to nail it.
Okay, we switched straight up to 25 FPS so we can get a statement.
Not what I'm waiting for, but it works. I'm happy because I did it, you know, a landing is good, but I don't really stress, you know.
Oh, you try. It's fucking sick, bro.
Thank you.
It's fucking sick. Let's go.
Appreciate it.
Nice. Honestly, I think we had like super, super dope shots here. Like the whole process of you trying that trick over and over again. It's like exactly what I think we needed.
Nice.
Honestly, the sky is about to explode. So I'm just gonna put the GoPro on, still capture a couple of shots with my camera as well.
Nice.
So every GoPro mount also has kind of like a screwdriver in here. So with that, it's definitely not going to move. Then you can already go. We're going to go to the other side. And then we capture some more shots.
While the action camera was recording, I again filmed with my main camera, as this would allow me to seamlessly cut between both angles within the edits. Similar to how I did it at the first skate park, I set my main camera to a higher focal length and tracked him while he was riding in the bowl.
Let's switch the GoPro. I think we should again do one in the back here. Okay, let's go. Okay, so I'm wondering if I actually just go up there to just get a new angle that I didn't cover before. Okay, I'm just gonna capture like an establishing shot because that's super nice here with all of the different riders, all of the kids sitting around and Julian kind of in between. So that's going to be nice if I want to establish this location.
Again, Julian rode through the bowl so the action camera could capture his point of view, and I did some high focal length tracking shots for additional coverage.
Like the sky is super nice right now because we are getting all of this sunlight basically spilling onto the different layers of clouds, and you can see that we have a ton of detail in the sky, which is perfect for capturing cinematic shots. Woof. Bro, I gotta capture that one. For this one, I'm actually going to do it a bit different. I'm going to do it static. I'm going to go even closer, probably to like 50 or 60 millimeters, because I basically just want to isolate him like this in the sky. That's going to look fucking epic. Let's see if I got that one. Oof. Yeah, definitely got it.
As the sun got lower, the light situation became more and more epic.
We're just collecting bangers, one banger after another.
To make use of the beautiful light, I asked Julian to stand at a fixed position so I could capture some calmer shots that I could use for more reflective parts of the story. At some point, I purposely positioned myself further away so that other skaters could pass the frame. And as you see, this added a very authentic feeling to the shot.
Can you do one where you just like take off your helmet and you just kind of like look towards the sunset? I think it's a really nice kind of like closing shot for the end.
Yeah.
As you saw in the final edit, this actually turned out to be one of the closing shots I ended up using.
I haven't seen a sky like this in like months. This is freaking lucky.
Towards the end, we again captured some higher jumps in slow motion, which turned out to be some of my favorite shots I ever captured.
Hell yeah.
As the sky turned towards blue hour and the mood became more dramatic, I used the opportunity to capture additional shots of Julian with his crutch. These shots simply served as additional coverage for the part of the interview where Julian talked about his accident. And with that, we had captured more than enough shots at the last location.
I think this was an extremely successful shoot. We had a lot of luck with the weather. You were an absolute legend. Thank you so much for making it happen.
Thank you for sticking all the way through, and I hope that you could learn something new. In just a few weeks, I'm launching Story Hero Academy, which is the storytelling and filmmaking education I wish I had when I was younger. This was the 4th video of my launch series, and next week I'll post a personal solo experience of my own life. To give you a hint, I challenged myself to survive for 24 hours without any money, and you won't believe what happens. So don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications. Furthermore, I highly recommend you to join the waitlist for Story Hero Academy through the first link in the description, as I'll be sending you valuable updates, free lessons and exclusive downloads via email, plus you'll be first in line when we open the doors. Thank you for showing up, and I will see you next week.